Welcome back. Thanks again for joining us for another episode as we continue studying through the Word of God together. If you're following along with us, we are in the book of Daniel. We're in Daniel chapter 8 today. And of course, you know the second half, Daniel 7 through the rest of it, refers to prophecy and the future. One thing to remember when we evaluate prophecies, we have to remember the time in which these men received the prophecy. We're actually going to look at chapter 8 today, the second half of it. And what we're looking at is something that actually is all history to us, was actually all future prophecy to Daniel. And there's a list of reasons we could look at for them, one of that reason. But one of the primary is that we now can look. Remember, the Bible was written to people all through multiple generations, starting with Daniel and still to our future generations if the Lord tarries. So we have to take into account that for Daniel, this was new, this was prophecy. We know it is fulfilled, which shows the Bible to be so accurate. Because when it was first written, none of this was known. To us, this is normal history. We look at it, we see it, and we see the history proves the Bible, which gives us even more confidence in the other aspects of prophecies and things that are still ahead for us today. So that's one of the great benefits we get from this. Now, what I'm going to do today, Daniel 8 deals with the first 14 verses, deals with the dream. And why does God use weird visions and animals and things of this nature? There's a multiple different opinions of it. We know that the vision is a picture. What happens on it is literal. How it always approaches it sometimes is different. It's just the way God gave visions. Some of it is that they wouldn't be able to even fully understand in their mind what they're seeing with the technology and the things that are there today. So he was giving them a vision in the understanding and the culture they understood in those days, which as we dig more later into prophecy, that will explain a little bit more what we mean by that. But really what you're looking at is Daniel is seeing a vision and then a dream, and then God interprets that dream. So what we're going to do is the first 14 verses I challenge you to read. It is the vision dealing with different animals and horns being broken. But what I want to take time is just jump into verse 15, and look at the interpretation. So I challenge you to read the first half, but for this purpose, we're going to just jump into chapter 8, verse 15. It says this, verse 15 says, "When I, Daniel, had seen the vision, I sought to understand it, and behold, there stood before me one having the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of the Ulai, and I called it, and it called, Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was frightened and fell on my face. But he said to me, understand, O son of man, that the vision is for the time of the end." One intriguing part is this is the first time we see recorded that the name Gabriel's been used. It was reached in meeting to people. We are familiar with it as having been seen at the birth of Christ, where Gabriel was the messenger sent out, and that was named, but this is the first time we've seen it named. And so now in his dream, Gabriel comes and says, it's my responsibility to explain to you the vision. And here is that vision starting in verse 18. "And when he had spoken to me, I fell into a deep sleep with my face to the ground. And he touched me and made me stand up. And he said, Behold, I will make known to you what shall be at the latter end of the indignation, for it refers to the appointed time of the end. As for the ram that you saw with the two horns, these are the kings of Media and Persia. And the goat is the king of Greece. And the great horn between his eyes is the first king." Now, verse 22 says, "As for the horn that was broken, in place of which four others arose, 4 kingdoms shall rise from this nation, but not with his power." So what you're looking at there is something we already know, and something actually Daniel's already talked about prophesying earlier in the chapter and recently. So it's not necessarily repeating himself what he's doing, adding more information to this. And so you know the kings that he's currently under, Darius and Cyrus, the Medes and Persians, ultimately will be destroyed. We know this as he's saying it by Greece. Ultimately, Alexander the Great will come and destroy all of it. Ultimately, he will die, and 4 other kingdoms will come out of his spot right there, none of them really having the amount of power and influence that Alexander the Great did. And again, that's not hard to look at. We look at it, we can see that's history, you can study it. Most of us are very familiar with this aspect of the story. But then it continues in verse 23. And at the latter end of their kingdom, when the transgressors have reached their limit, a king of bold face, one who understands riddles, shall arise. His power shall be great, but not by his own power. And he shall cause fearful destruction and shall succeed in what he does and destroy mighty men and the people who are the saints. By his cunning he shall make deceit prosper under his hand, and in his own mind he shall become great. Without warning he shall destroy many. And he shall even rise up against the prince of princes, and he shall be broken, but by no human hand. Now, what we see next is some people, as I read, say this jumps up to the Antichrist. And I don't see that yet. I think what we're seeing is another man jumping up who comes in great, comes out of these four other leaders, comes one great leader. We know him as Antiochus Epiphanes. He comes up, the Bible says that he's not of his own power. It just depends on your view. Some believe maybe he had influence from Satan and power. Some believe due to his allies and other people. Either way, he had an immense amount of power. And in that power, deceit was well known. He was very, just a wicked man. And in that process, he destroyed many. He's known for some of the greatest destruction in a short period of time to the Jewish people. And so we know there's an immense amount of grief and pain and destruction he brought to the Jewish people. Again, you're going to look at history. This is something that fits what he's saying right here. Then you go on to say that he says he even tried to go against the Prince of Peace himself. This is why some believe he's referencing the Antichrist, who actually went up in the Battle of Armageddon against Jesus. Here's what I see is one of the things Antiochus Epiphanes did is he went against and desolated the temple. And when he went to the desolated temple, really what he was doing is he was making himself God, going against the Prince of Peace and fighting in that scenario. What ultimately happens is he was killed, but not, really says by not by hand, by the hand of God. Let me actually find exactly what it was saying so I can say it right. It goes down to, he says that he shall even rise up against the Prince of the Pieces, and he shall be broken, but by no human hand. That simply means that he's not going to find himself defeated in military battle. He's not going to find himself defeated, as tyrants often were, by other people trying to get rid of him. What we learn of Antiochus Epiphanes is he died, many believe, as I'm reading through different aspects of history, died of a massive internal disease in the bowels. And there's a lot of description of really pretty much how nasty it was. And ultimately, from the inside out, he was eaten up and ended up dying of basically a nasty disease, which we could say God gave to him and said, I'm done with you. You've served your purpose. I'm done with you, and I want you to die. And so you're going to see that premise. Again, you can look at history. All this, different aspects of history would prove and find these things to be true. We go to verse 26. The vision of the evenings and the mornings that has been told is true, but seal up the vision, for it refers to many days from now. And I, Daniel, was overcome and lay sick for some days. And I arose and went about the king's business, but I was appalled by the vision and did not understand it. As he's looking ahead, it seems strange, it seemed weird. And really, it was he just don't write this down, but don't necessarily tell anybody now, because would these kings, would the current kingdom be able to handle this information? Would they be able to accept this information? Again, it was information for way down in time. And so this is what we're looking at chapter 8, and we jump into chapter 9, because one of the things you're going to see when you jump into chapter 9 is that he's going to recognize that the time where the Israelites are stuck in this desolation, stuck in this time, is coming to an end, and it's intriguing Daniel's response to it. So again, some of what you're seeing in this, in prophecy, remember, is still future for the people writing it history for us now. Many aspects of it, as we've looked, are still future. Not necessarily, I believe, in this chapter, but in others are still future for us. As we look ahead to Christ's return, we look ahead to the Antichrist, and all of those things that I believe are still ahead for us. Many of the other promises and prophecies and covenants to the children of Israel, the Israeli people, will still come and are still to be fulfilled in the future, and I believe that's all still yet to come before us. And then ultimately, Jesus will come, place his feet on the earth, which is known as the second advent, where he will come down, defeat Satan, and rule on this earth. And so that is all yet still to come. Stick with us as we continue to dig through the book of Daniel. Tomorrow, next time, Daniel 9, we're going to dig into really Daniel's response to some of the information that he is learning. And it's a great thing that we can learn. And boy, it's powerful for us to get an understanding of how we should respond to some of the information we've been given. Well, I greatly appreciate the privilege you give to me to be part of your day. Hope you stick with us as we'll be continuing through the book of Daniel and learn a little more about what has happened and what is to come. Again, thanks for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again next time.